At the male archetype of what men want in a woman is usually someone young, someone power is unimportant. They want her to be subservient. They want her to be less powerful. They want her to be young. They want her to be beautiful. They want her to have large breasts. They want all of that. And if you ask women, if you don't ask, but you actually search for what women want, it tends to be a vampire. And the reason is functionally this: that women tend to basically get excited by being desired. And a vampire is a construct of somebody that can desire a person sexually, but also desire the person physically as like a source of sustenance, which is like, I don't know, like the equivalent of fake boobs. Like it's unrealistic amounts of excitement, and it's a person that can be both young and experienced, can be more both powerful and weak. And there's so much there that if you see what women are basically gratifying themselves to, for those who don't have proper grasp of the English language, masturbating to, getting off to, flopping to, whatever, it tends to be erotic descriptions. And surprisingly, a lot of those erotic descriptions are involve vampires. The other point is because desire is so purpose, and because like coming to this emotional point is so is so purposeful. If it's like two male protagonists that are coming together and they aren't attractive, like the I believe on like one of the lines that like the Mythbusters said is like, why are people writing erotica about us coming together? Believe it or not, that's not gay men. That tends to be straight women. And like that sort of point is something that is never discussed. But it's important to understand that when you sort of broadcast people, like a particular group, so when you broadcast men as being perverse, that's not true. It's just, it's in different ways. And you'll find that plenty of women, by the way, none of this is in stone. So I'm sure there are men that love reading erotica. There are women that love graphic porn. In fact, that same book said that women made porn that was made for women. Um, Women inevitably preferred porn that was made for men than porn that was made for women if they enjoyed porn. So doing this concept of like aestheticizing it or playing different music somehow makes it women more interested. That doesn't seem to be true. It's just that what seems to be important for them is for it to be more focused on a desire and then to coming together. So I'm going to look at the horrible questions that have come up. TFC, two male antagonists that are coming together. TFC. Again, thank you for managing the quote mine view. This is amazing. Has it occurred to you that Indiegogo support team might be enthralled by your discourse and waiting for you to finish before getting to work? Unlikely, as it's a Sunday. As I said, I was very impressed by the Twitch moderators. They were here fast. I'm thankful that they have not returned. Do we agree with feminists? The whole thing is that I identify with the ideas. We actually say that we're implied humanists because we work with so many people. We feel that again, a lot of people are using the word feminist to monetize themselves, and so that people don't have to think about what they're about. So if I can talk about, say, like the slut walk. So to explain what happened, um, I'm a little critical of the slut walk, so the social justice warriors can have something else to complain about. So in Toronto, the police chief basically made a statement saying that uh, if women didn't want to be encouraged to be raped, they should be careful about what they dress as. And this did a lot of anger in the community that was justified. So the feminists in Toronto decided to throw him a parade where they'd all dress up as sluts. And My first statement is if you want to encourage the police to not commissioner to not make statements like that, please do not throw him a half naked girl parade every time it happens. But one of the things was there are a lot of people that join in with that that just don't understand the meaning behind the context. So there's a lot of people who just want to run around being publicly naked in Ontario, by the way. It specifically says that women can be topless. So there's a lot of people that do that, and they're doing that to get attention to themselves. And if they eventually discover what feminists about it, they use it eventually to empower myself. I don't feel like they shouldn't be there. I just feel you should be careful when your movement only attracts people because it's controversial. I said because I was dating someone at the time who was involved. I said if you really want to make the police officers like if you want to make a subjective statement, you should make sure that everybody's dressed as a slutty police officer. So you can show them that, that you can put the onus on what they're wearing is slutty and to show that any, that what you're wearing doesn't matter, especially because all the statistics say that it doesn't, that appearance is not as relevant to the to the conversation in most rapes. But that was a larger sort of conversation. But I just wanted to tell people that when people say like why you don't seem to be a feminist, you tend to identify with something else. What I like to say is that it's a wide tent, and there isn't a single like feminist author that I believe 100%. All of them I have my criticisms of. Mhm. Yes. Um, when is going to get her own nod, respectively? What is the what is your biggest fetish? Skipping that one. I have a police officer fetish, TFYC. Thank you for taking that one out of context. To what extent will Vivian in the game? It really depends upon the game. I don't think she should be a male character main character because I think uh, that may muddy the women's idea. I think that she should always be a main character. So like having her like involved, not a main, shouldn't be a main character, and she should be a main character. I think that having her be a particular like quest in say Afterlife Empire would be good, or having her be the person who gives the tutorial in Air Rocky, or have her be one of the playable characters in My Eyes, or having her be the cat owner in Furball Fury would all be great. I want to make sure that you're incorporated, but I just don't feel that you should totally override the creator's impression. Just so I'm perfectly clear, though, she deserves her own game, and someone should work on that. What are you drinking right now? Only water. I will need to sustain myself at some point. As I said, I'm getting impressed by the length of time that they are not taking to get back to me on this thing. Let us ask them another question. Uh, how it works, trust and safety. Contact us. It is still down. Our site is still down and press is beginning to cover it. Looking for a phone number. Okay, they will not provide a phone number again. Good to hear. Uh, best practice in well health and center support things. There you go. Trust and safety. Da 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 da. I just, I'm just, I want to make sure if anybody that's going Indiegogo is like listening, like the longer we're down, the longer the story goes on for. And I don't think you guys want to be attached to this. Again, like I feel there should have been protections if they were just trying random fucking passwords, as that's how Twitter got hacked. But there we go. Hmm. No, any good English languages that are infected with resources. Um. Yes, why are we godlessly making Indiegogo work on the Sabbath? Ah, great, you've somehow managed to apply that they've been Jews without directly saying it. Excellent work. Do you think that, yeah. Do you think the iPhone Dungeon Keeper is sort of impression? I think what it is it's ruining a good idea. I think that I just dislike how good Dungeon Keeper is as a game and how people like remember it for so long. Like I beat Dungeon Keeper at the time. I didn't think it was a major thing. I still remember Dungeon Keeper in my experience playing it to that day. I went to GOG and I played the second one, and like I watched like Astro Boy. I think I've got a bad dub of Astro Boy. I hope there's a second one, but I remember watching it, liking it a lot as a kid, and then watched it again, and I was like, this seems less amazing now than it was at the time. But I just remember getting back in Dungeon Keeper 2, and immediately it captured the same feeling that I remember. So making it into a sort of scheme that it's just a cash grab, it's just something where, like, as a capitalist, what you're basically doing is you are ruining that IP so that you can't use it again. And I feel like if you want to make more money over long term, you should have used that IT correctly. I'm going to do it as a simple business decision to EA. That was not the IP for you guys to monetize in the way that you were going. The audiences weren't the same. You should have just monetized an existing property that you could have licensed. You should not have done it like that. I think if, like, honestly speaking, if Ubisoft had like done some version of it, like an Assassin's Creed version of that game, where it was just all of the bullshit assassin missions where you update their experience and it had a similar design to that, I would feel that more people would even like that, because they can get their awesome Assassin's Creed somewhere else. I just felt like, and I feel this happens a lot, that like people take old IPs and then like basically try to suck the very last pieces of funding out of them, and that makes it so it's just it makes a sense short term. It doesn't make sense long term, and I think part of the reason why like Nintendo's still around, even though they have the worst console in the new generation, is because they've spent so much time maintaining their IP. And that I find that if you think about Sony, you know, like a lot of Sony's characters that were released with the original PlayStation, nobody knows about them anymore. They've been like completely lost. And if you think of Halo, it's even think of the Xbox, it's really worse. And if you want to make money long term, if you want to have a stable audience, you really have to treat your IP with correctly, because that's the way that fans get respect. Yes, whereas console has reacted. I forgot Nintendo can totally censors people on their products. I actually think that the Wii U actually is doing the most in the space. I just think that it's not selling well, which it isn't selling well. I don't know how it'll work, because the main thing is that Nintendo is a Japanese company, so like its handheld market is like really doing well. Its console market is doing poorly, and its handheld market is doing so well that it's easily floating the company. So it's determined like how this console works. And the other thing is like Nintendo's making games for Japan. Like most of the other development is like for the world or for the European audience. Japan is like culturally very different. So it is completely possible in Japan, like the Wii U is doing great. It's probably doing better than the Xbox 360. I don't think it's doing as well as the PlayStation 4. But again, it's all about money, and if Nintendo just decides to like lower its appeal in the console space and entirely focus on handhelds, I think that'll be sad for everyone. But I think they can sustain themselves with it. Nintendo by far is I think Nintendo by far, at least over the last years, like if you take it over the last 6 years, Nintendo has been kicking everybody's fucking ass. And I know that again, it's like again, this is the whole capitalist thing. Is again, the company's purpose is to making money and to increase their audience. They have an audience, and they were making tons of money. It just wasn't the mainstream audience, and I think that both can exist. I just wish more developers on the Wii and thus the Wii U made games that I actually was like, I would invest in your console for this. I do feel like Mario Kart, and I do feel Zelda, and I do feel the biggies are worth it. But there aren't too many games that I'm going to be completely surprised and come out of nowhere about. Okay, I will literally talk to anybody, but as I've told people, this is on would I talk to Total Biscuit. This is not calling him out, okay? This is not his specific area of focus. He basically discusses new games that are coming out, and he discusses the industry in general. We are completely separate from him, and he would have to like use some of his capital to get involved with us and to discuss the project. And again, this that's his job. Not only is it dependent on him, I believe his wife, and he has another guy who does a lot of his work, and he's sponsoring an esports team. So he's got tons of people that are reliant on him to maintain what he's doing. So having him come on board could affect his livelihood. And it's not some, again, I don't, honestly speaking, I don't think we're going to sink his fucking ship. I'm just explaining why he's perfectly valid in that. But especially a lot of the smaller YouTubers and stuff, a lot of the ones that don't understand completely what we're about and kind of jump on board. I kind of like, I always have to make sure that they're informed and like this production isn't just sitting around and making fun of 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 like women who talk about games because it's not. It's just that I don't want them involved because A, they mix up the message that we're trying to tell, and two, the last thing you want to do is support a group and then have the group have to say, actually, some of the stuff you do is pretty shitty. On the end of the what TFC is about. He's avoiding the shit. Okay, the most prevalent things. Okay, so what's prevalent in social justice in Toronto? Good social justice right now in Ontario. A lot of it is doing with prostitution because we're in the actively changing the laws. A lot of it is doing on how we are dealing with the fact that unless we educate women when they're younger, that doesn't mean they will assume jobs when they're older. Okay, so a good instance to explain this is if a person has a male child, they're more likely to let the child like run further away before they call them back than they are with a woman. So part of the problems why like men are good with computers is to learn how to use a computer, you have to deal with sites that are disreputable. Like you have to go on forums where everybody's cursing. You'll end up seeing some pornography, and you need to do that to even just ask questions about like how the fuck do I compile this, or what is the function name to do this. And because women aren't allowed to run that far, especially young girls aren't allowed to run that far, they're at a disadvantage later. So one of the things that you get in Canada is like we want to hire women and there aren't there, or the ones that you hired aren't qualified. And if you're taking a position away from a man to put an unqualified woman there, you're just making the problem much worse. You're just increasing the differences between the sexes, and you're especially the male has a huge valid point about how he should have been the job if he is more qualified. Like, fuck people who hire people just for their gender, just for their race or anything. Doing that is just as bad as not hiring someone. But again, it's like, how do we get these people to do it? So how do we do it as a long-term thing? And as I said, some of the stuff I find encouraging, some of the stuff I find discouraging, and a lot of it's from the same group. That's the problem. So I'll like talk to them, and like literally I'll talk to people who are too scared about teaching women how to program in C++ and do it, and they prefer Ruby. And to explain that, Ruby is like a plane with a pilot. You spend most of your time getting on the plane and getting off the plane, but you get on the plane, the pilot tells it where it wants to go, and if you do anything wrong, Ruby's more than likely to steer the plane so it hits on the landing field. C and C++ are kind of like a rocket in that you still spend most of your time getting on and off the plane. uh, you get there faster, but if you do anything slightly wrong, the rocket crashes into the ground and kills everyone. So it's a language that is more likely for things to fail horribly, and it takes a lot longer for you to learn how to do it. But my thing is like, inevitably speaking, if a woman chooses to have sex and is straight, she's eventually going to get fucked. So don't don't worry about her not getting fucked a bit about learning C. It's not that hard a language. It's not so hard that a woman should do it. And more importantly, if men are able to do it, if there's a lot of really poor C being coded by men, then don't think we should stop women who are good at programming from at least experiencing the language. Why is 90% of those, no, sorry, the woman who can't be speech talking about her sex life? Actually, we'll discuss that. This happens to do with how we actually observe women in business. The line I used to use is, for a man to succeed in dating, he has to act like he's a success in business. For a woman to succeed in business, she has to act flirty and like she's looking to date. And unfortunately, that is so true that you'll see even CEOs, female CEOs of large companies, taking these really foolish pictures that look like they should go on like Snapchat and stuff. And people really give a fuck about their relationship with people, who they are, how nice they are to people, and blah, 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 and all of that kind of stuff. And it's a really weird form of oppression that we give a fuck. So one of the reasons why, again, on the media in general, both like the media that is censored, like that's not discussing about it, and the media that is so focused on her gosh darn sex life, is that that's like the only way they can really discuss what is going on. Like if there was a male developer who was literally banging his way through all of the female journalists, like he'd be getting high fives all the way through. And like I'm really he would the only people who would bitch at him would have been the social justice warriors, and my biggest issue about that is that in this case they would be right. And but it's so hard, especially when you're in a field like independent game design in general, where you're touching your audience, where you're emoting with your audience, that they're like they may actually tweet at you a problem and you have to fix it. It's so difficult to have that relationship, especially if you're a woman, because inevitably speaking, if say if you're a guy and some woman like writes to you how awesome you are, or even sends you an inappropriate photo, if you interact with it, everybody cheers. If you don't interact with it, everybody still has respect for you. If you're a woman, it can go bad in so many ways. And it's just like one of the biggest things that we need to move past for as a society is to just not give a fuck. And I believe, again, if you're so opposed to what the person who can't be named is standing for, if you actually have legitimate concerns, you have to understand that making people not give a fuck about who's dating who and who's sleeping with who, which women is dating who and who she's sleeping with, is just like the equivalent of draining every single bit of their power. Why is it getting no funding? Because sorry, why aren't people discussing it out of that sense? Like, why aren't they discussing what she did? The first thing is that one of the things about it is we have to explain that, like, again, the Autobotic is in Colombia. They are not directly involved in the indie game scene, and most of their work is white label. So nobody probably has contacted them about a video game ever. I do work for hire and white label work. I don't actually talk to many journalists. They can't really confirm or deny the story, even though like we have linked the tweets and we did discuss it at times. They can't confirm or deny the story. But the other thing that you have to understand is people like to, I've worked in big companies, people like to assume that like everybody in the big company works together as a team and they all have a cohesive message and they're all trying to dominate the landscape. In reality, it becomes like an episode of Game of Thrones where each person is fighting with each other. Right now, they're really scared because they don't know which way the chips are going to fall. And the biggest thing about it is they could support the wrong person and they could literally lose their job about it, or they could lose the career that they put so much effort into. The whole thing is like a lot of the issues